Hello, everyone. You're listening to Cinema 5000. My name is Mallory. This is my podcast talking about all the movies I watch on this podcast. And this is the first regular episode of 2026. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm recording this on the 26th. And if you divide 26 in half, what do you get? 13. I got 13 movies to talk to you about on this episode. What do we have for the count, though? We're at 5,926 films. So I'm not hitting the one a day like a lot of people try to do. I did try to do that one year. Like watch 365 films in a year. And I think I came pretty close twice, but I'm just never going to be able to do that again. Life is just too complicated these days, and I work too much. But we need to start with the first film I watched in the year of 2026 for the first time. I went to the theater and I saw the movie entitled The Plague from 2025, directed by Charlie Polinger. There is no tagline for this film. A socially awkward tween endures the ruthless hierarchy at a water polo camp, his anxiety spiraling into psychological turmoil over the summer. This has a lot of young actors who you probably don't recognize, though there is one actor I did recognize, Elliot Heffernan, who was in the film Blitz just over, was that earlier this year or was that last year? That was last year, not last year 2025, but 2024. But the main character in the film is Ben, who's played by Everett Blunk. And Everett Blunk's Ben is just a young kid from Boston. He's got a little bit of an accent. The kids make fun of him. He's going to water polo camp. And water polo camp with a bunch of preteen boys. As you can imagine, it's a bit of a nightmare. In some ways, this is a psychological thriller for everything Ben goes through while trying to not only get to know these boys, but sort of work within the ways of how things operate at this camp. And there is one boy at the camp who's a little offbeat, and some of the boys make fun of him, and they say he has the plague. The character Eli, who is played by Kenny Rasmussen. What is the plague? Well, Eli unfortunately has some skin, it looks like it could be acne, it could be just something else. He's a preteen, he should have things like that. But all these things kind of add up and make Ben's life at camp very stressful. He starts to act out in ways with the boys, and like some of the things he tries to do are to try to be, friends and act like the way the other guys do, but then they just make fun of him anyway. And it's all building towards some very stressful and in some ways horrifying moments in this film. Also in the film, though, I should mention, is Joel Edgerton. He plays the coach for the boys at this camp. And this is a fairly small film. It really just takes place within the walls of this camp. But as things build and build, we're given this experience through Ben's perspective in a lot of ways. Pretty much all the way. Yeah, it's all from Ben's perspective. Did I think this was a good film? Yeah, kind of feels like a little bit of it reminded me of something. It feels like a standard kind of, coming of age, but, the unfortunate pressures of just peer pressure and how people are when they're young at this age, when they're all trying to be cool, and then there's just always someone who's always poking the bear, someone who's really nasty and maybe driving a lot of the negativity in the circle of social belonging, and how you want to fit in, but ultimately you will never fit in just because of one thing. It reminded me of this movie Mean Creek, which is not exactly the same. That's a distinct bully, and it's the kids want to get back at the bully. So, but it just reminded me of that movie. It feels like a movie like that comes along every 10 years or so, where it's really pointed and really kind of speaks to what kind of things kids go through. And this is a good film. I would recommend this as both a drama experience and also a coming of age kind of story. But just know that it is not a pleasant time. There's a lot of things that go on that are very dramatic. It's funny, I asked my mom if she maybe wanted to go see this with me when it was coming out, and she was like, what's it about? I'm like, I don't really know, but it's called The Plague. And she said, well, I don't think that's a title I'd like. Uh, and I'm actually pretty glad she didn't go, because there's some very shocking moments in this. But The Plague from 2025, directed by Charlie Pollinger, I give this one 3 stars. It has some nice cinematography, like nice use of music. It's a well-crafted film, and it might not be like the most amazing film, but it's something I would definitely recommend, something a little bit different than what you get kind of as everyday movies these days. It's like the kind of movie that I feel like if it goes, I have no idea what streaming service it would go to, but if it shows up on one, it's like people would like kind of find it and just be like, whoa, did you see this movie? Wow. And it's way too good to be just something that you just watch because it's on streaming, though. I will say, if it's in theaters near you, probably not, but check it out if you can. The Plague. And now let's talk about She's Having a Baby from 1988, directed by John Hughes. The tagline is man, woman, life, death, infinity, tuna casserole. One movie dares to tell it all. Jake and Christy Briggs are newlyweds. Being young, they are perhaps a bit unprepared for the full reality of marriage and all that it is, and their parents expect from them. Do they want babies? Their parents certainly want them to. Is married life all that there is? Things certainly aren't helped by Jake's friend Davis, who always seems to turn up just in time to put a spanner in the works. That stars Kevin Bacon and Elizabeth McGovern as this young couple as they start to navigate the world before them after they get married. And this movie is a satire through and through from John Hughes, and I had never seen this movie, never seen a trailer for it, never seen it on TV. I knew it existed because I've just seen it everywhere. I've seen it on VHS when I worked at a video store many, many moons ago. And one night my parents and I were just hanging out like after New Year's, and it was just kind of like, well, let's watch a movie. And my mom's like, oh, that lady from Downton Abbey, Miss Elizabeth McGovern. I'd love to watch a movie with her in it. And I came up with this. And my parents were like, yeah, sure. I was not prepared for how much of this movie is just basically Kevin Bacon as Jake, just being such a like gun-shy kind of fool when it comes to his life, his wife, how he feels about the world. And she's like ready for things, but at the same time it's like a marriage, so how is he as a partner and being like ready for her? And it's a little frustrating as, you know, someone watching this movie being like, why is this entire movie just from his perspective? It like barely touches on like what her perspective is, and when it does, yeah, it's critical moments, but most of it's just him being afraid, very afraid of everything. And you finally get to the title part of the film, She's Having a Baby, and there's a sudden tone shift, like big time, swinging like, whoa, what are we doing here? And then it all kind of wraps up nicely, I guess. But for a movie that is like a comedy, it is definitely a satire, definitely a bit dated. It might turn some people off. I enjoyed watching it because it is such a moment in time, and like movies just aren't really made like this anymore. And then the buddy who kind of comes in, he's barely in the film, but Davis, who's played by Alec Baldwin, when he showed up in the beginning, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Alec Baldwin used to be just kind of a supporting guy in some movies here and there. Yeah, it's an alright film. I wouldn't go out of your way to watch it, but if you got a hankering for like some 80s films, you know, when movies were made in the 80s that were comedies, they were studio pictures and they looked great. There's a lot of moments in this movie that I just thought were so funny, like little homages, and the way it was shot. It looks great. It is also a Chicago film, so I'm all there for it. It is definitely not a perfect film. There's definitely some weaknesses to it, and at 106 minutes, I feel like it maybe could have been a little bit shorter, but I guess for what it is, like, I had a fine time. I give this one 3 stars. It's funny how John Hughes is someone who, you think of John Hughes, what do you think of? You're not thinking of She's Having a Baby. You're thinking of Breakfast Club. You're thinking of Ferris Bueller, 16 Candles, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Uncle Buck. No, She's Having a Baby. It's funny enough, or maybe more, it's apt enough, and rightfully so. This is his least watched movie on Letterboxd by a good margin, by 13,000. Well, margin relative to his movies. But Curly Sue has been seen by more people than this movie. And then the gap between Curly Sue and Weird Science, I mean, as far as directorial projects, is over 130,000 viewers. So, like, Weird Science is 167,000. Curly Sue is just 33,000. And I saw Curly Sue as a kid. Curly Sue was like marketed to hell, like big deal picture. And it was, I remember it not being that great. Anyway, she's having a baby. Maybe it's forgettable. Maybe it's bad. I still had an okay time watching it, and I was amused. I was definitely amused and entertained more than I was not. But do be warned, Kevin Bacon's Jake is a very pathetic man in this motion picture. Up next, something I had no intent in watching. I was just looking for something to watch. It was the afternoon. I was hanging out, and I turned on the Criterion channel. They have this great thing where they just have the live channel, and it's just like turning on a TV channel. There'll be any random movie on, and it just starts, and you can just watch it. And so I turned it on, and this movie had just started. It's Popeye from 2017, directed by Kirsten Tan. There is no tagline for this film. On a chance encounter, a disenchanted architect bumps into his long-lost elephant on the streets of Bangkok. Excited, he takes his elephant on a journey across Thailand in search of the farm where they grew up together. I sadly have to say that even though this was kind of like a thing where it's just like, oh, I'll just watch this as it's happening, the story of a man who has now grown and lives his life in just, a sprawling city or whatever, and then comes across this elephant that reminds him of his childhood and the life he once had. It takes a lot of very expected moments that we can see coming from a mile away. And this man is not very nice. His Tana is the man, and he and this elephant and their journey, it's like it's like this thing of like, you're an old guy and you found the bike you had as a kid, and it makes you think back to all those things. But the elephant is the bike, and he's trying to support the elephant, get the elephant going on the road. And then the ending of this movie has the most expected conclusion for the story of the man just so happened to find his childhood elephant. It's exactly what you expect it to be. It looks nice, but it's just too thin. Like, I have nothing else to say about the story. It's like he meets people along the way where like things happen and the elephant helps, or he meets somebody and they try to help him out, or something happens and it's just like kind of not working. It's on to the next thing, the next trope. And if this was an American film, it would be exactly the same, whether it was an elephant or a dog or that bike. I just was not impressed with this one. It looks fine, but oof, Popeye from 2017, directed by Kirsten Tan. Just not a fan of it. And I kept watching it because I was already like, okay, well, I'm already here. I'm already watching this. Maybe this is going to get good. And it just didn't get good. So I had to give this one 2 stars. And that's a bummer. I was in the mood for something different, and this was definitely something different. But if you want something that's just a kind of, how do I say it? Just a kind of road journey film about a man kind of putting the pieces together in his life and trying to recall what his experiences were, I guess this is for you. You can watch it right now on Canopy, and of course the Criterion channel. Whenever it's on the live channel, it's also something that you can select and watch in full. So if you come across something and it's like already in progress, you can give it a shot. Popeye is not so great to me, but it could be good to you. Now, our next film is The Mastermind from 2025, directed by Kelly Reichardt. There is no there is a tagline, sorry. It's not stealing if you don't get caught. In a sedate Massachusetts suburb circa 1970, unemployed family man and amateur art thief J.B. Mooney sets out on his first heist. With the museum cased and accomplices recruited, he has an airtight plan. Or so he thinks. J.B. Mooney is played by Josh O'Connor. He is definitely, a guy with a plan, But will that plan go his way? I will say for Kelly Reichardt's films, I'm always like kind of like, well, I enjoy the films, but I don't love them. And this one I did really enjoy. I have seen, of all her major releases, the only one I haven't seen is called Night Moves from 2013, but I've seen Mix Cut Off, I've seen Old Joy, First Cow Showing Up, Certain Women. Certain Women is still my favorite of her films. And then after that, I'd probably say Wendy and Lucy. I quite enjoyed that one, though it's been a long time. But the Mastermind, similar kind of structure, just kind of going through the motions of, the simple life that people do lead. They have things they want to do, maybe ambitions, but how can they execute on them? And there's nothing flashy about her pictures. They are independent films through and through. And Josh O'Connor is pretty much, I would say, a big name for Kelly Reichardt right now, especially right here in his career, like the kind of movies he's been doing. I mean, think about Challengers and how he was just in the latest Glass, not Glass Onion, the Knives Out film, the Wake Up Dead Man film. And he's the it boy. He's the it guy, and he's in a Kelly Reichardt film, a nice small film. But then again, she works with the likes of Michelle Williams and Kristen Stewart. So I guess it's fitting that she's kind of got someone who's still dipping their toes for sure in the smaller pictures. But this is just a kind of, how do I say it? Very much a slice of life. I know, slice of life. What does that mean? Slice of life to me means we're just getting to know people at the most grounded and organic levels of what humanity is. And that's this guy. Him wanting to steal these paintings from this gallery. He's just a simple guy, and everybody you meet are just kind of average. And how things go down, well, you'll have to watch the movie. Not so great for him, I'll say that. And it's kind of telegraphed early that things are not going to go so great for him. He just isn't, he's not, how do you say it? He's a guy with ideas, but execution is another thing, and you sense that about him immediately. His wife is played by Alana Haim. She plays Terry, and then Hope Davis plays his mother. Oh, gosh. And along the way, we also meet John Magaro, Gabby Hoffman, and Bill Camp, who plays... wait, is that his dad? Yeah, his dad. Some familiar independent performers. John Magaro has also been in a couple of Kelly Reichardt films. I am going to recommend this movie, but I have a warning for some people. If slow cinema is something that's not up your alley, and really stripped down portraits of ordinary people doesn't work for you, do not watch this movie. And if you don't like Kelly Reichardt films, don't watch this movie. But I do actually quite enjoy this one. Like I said, it might be up there, maybe top 3 for her films for me, maybe top 2. I found this to be very enjoyable, and it reminded me a lot of the film The Friends of Eddie Coyle, though that's a little bit more, dare I say, flashy. Not necessarily flashy, but compared to this, it's flashy. And Josh O'Connor first performance here, it's just amusing to see him be so quiet and still so, the wheels are turning, but is success in the cards for him. Yeah, and I like the way this was photographed. I really kept a simple kind of feel for, it's supposed to be in the 1970s in Massachusetts, and this is where it reminded me of The Friends of Eddie Coyle, which is a 1970s film where there is crime committed and there are regular people. But yeah, I would love to do a double feature of The Mastermind and The Friends of Eddie Coyle, just the Massachusetts crime double feature, but nothing too flashy, that is. I wouldn't say watch The Town and then watch this one. Oh no. But The Mastermind for 2025, directed by Kelly Reichardt, I gave this one 3.5 stars. I enjoyed this one. It was a good time, and I was surprised about the ways that I enjoyed this over some of her other films. Showing Up was the other recent film she had, and I had a lot of problems with that one, but I still gave it a positive rating because ultimately I think it was successful at what it was doing. But here, I don't want to spoil it. Yeah, it's amusing. It's really very much a movie for grown-ups who are just into sort of a kind of beat, a kind of tone. Yeah, the music was good in this one too, and there's a beauty in the simplicity of the kind of movies that Kelly Reichardt makes. Like when they're great, they're great. And Certain Women for me is like her best movie for sure. Okay, up next we have The Dutchman from 2025, directed by Andre Gaines. The tagline is "To get on, one gets off." A successful black businessman haunted by his crumbling marriage and identity crisis is drawn into a psychological game of cat and mouse with a mysterious white woman he encounters on a New York subway. This stars Andre Holland as Clay. He is married to Kaya, played by Zazie Beetz, and the marriage is just not going so great. After leaving his wife at a therapy session, he gets on the train in the subway and he meets Lula, who's played by Kate Mara, and they engage in a game of sorts of his identity, his life, his workings, and how Lula is calling him out for who he is in life. Also in the film is Stephen McKinley Henderson, who's playing Dr. Amiri, and I should mention this movie is based on the writing The Dutchman by Amiri Baraka. Now, it's like a psychological game here, taking the writings of The Dutchman and applying it to the character of Clay. And it might be confusing, it might be a bit stressful and odd, but I found a lot of this very interesting and very fascinating. I'd rather a movie take a text and try to apply it to a film and a situation in the way that this does than like completely fail, but like doing a straight adaptation. There's a lot of things happening here and the performances are good. I liked Andre Holland. Like, I think he's a good actor anyway. I definitely need to watch the show The Nick he was on. And Kate Mara as Lula, yeah, she kind of works as that character. Zazie Beetz is not in the film a lot, but Stephen McKinley Henderson, as he shows up from time to time, tries to move the story along with the different side characters that he plays and try to like examine what Clay is doing, how Clay feels about things, and sort of the weird twisted thing that's happening. It's not really a game, but it's just kind of an experience. It's different. I like the way this movie was shot. I think the use of music and editing is pretty successful, but I think there's something a little lacking in this in some ways, and it might just be that Andre Gaines hasn't made a lot of movies, I think this is his first narrative film because he's made documentaries before that. But it's like, as much as the movie is kind of missing something to really make it totally successful as like a thriller or a drama or even an examination of the text, I still kind of liked it. Now, I wouldn't recommend this to anybody, and I do kind of come away from it feeling like it doesn't quite work, but I'd rather sit in a theater and watch something that's a big swing like this. And that is, I mean, I was glad this was even in a theater period, because if this was on like a streaming service or something, it would just disappear. Nobody would watch it. Nobody would remember it. And seeing it in the theater, I feel like it really took me into this world, into this journey. As much as it was and wasn't working for me, I'm still like glad I saw it. So this is one of those movies where it kind of hits the middle for me, where it's not quite a recommend, but it's not a total loss. So I had to give this one 2.5 stars. Like anything less, I feel like would just not work. It doesn't say a lot to me. If I rate it like 2 stars, it's like no, don't even bother. But 2.5 for me is like, okay, this is working. Maybe I'm not convinced 100% about what it's doing and what its result it's going for is, or the ending doesn't work or something like that. But did I hate it? No. It's only 88 minutes long, but I think a movie, if this was any longer, it like might have told me more, might have been more successful. I don't know. It's just kind of a mixed results, but I really enjoy that it did this swing of trying to adapt the text of The Dutchman and then make it into this film and what it's doing. Yeah, it is a twisted web of something. But The Dutchman from 2025, directed by Andre Gaines, like I said, had to give this one 2.5 stars. I'm glad I went along on the ride. Yeah, as much as it was very, very twisty. Now, something else that wants to be a little twisty It's Bugonia from 2025, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. The tagline is, "It all starts with something magnificent." Two conspiracy-obsessed young men kidnap the high-powered CEO of a major company, convinced that she is an alien intent on destroying planet Earth. Emma Stone plays Michelle Fuller. She is the woman who is kidnapped by Teddy and Don, who are played by Jesse Plemons and Aidan Delby. Basically, if you are taking over planet Earth and are intent on destroying all the good things in life through capitalism and such, you must be an alien. No, not really. But it's a satire. It's a dark comedy for sure. Definitely a dark comedy. Something you kind of can expect from Yorgos Lanthimos in this material. And it's actually adapted from a film called Save the Green Planet, adapted here by the screenwriter of the film The Menu by Will Tracy. I think the script in this one is very, very weak. I was not really impressed with this movie at all. I didn't think the performances were that amazing. I guess everybody loves Emma Stone in this, but not me. I'm a hater here. Oscar nominations be damned. I really did not care for this film. I found its assertions to be a bit flat and rudimentary, just kind of expected, like, yeah, I never heard that one before. And it doesn't help that this movie goes ahead and does visual homages to much better motion pictures, like The Mirror from Andrei Tarkovsky. Oh boy, I don't recommend doing that in your movie. I really did not care for this movie. It feels like Yorgos is kind of on autopilot because he's really just doing the same kind of thing he does in every one of his movies. This is very akin to Kinds of Kindness in the ways that movie was talking about relationships and things that people do and behaviors, but in such a quirky, bizarro black comedy way, you know? I like a provocative movie. I like a movie that's dark and strange. But something like this, I just really did not care for. And I think I'm really never going to watch another Yorgos Lanthimos movies. Maybe, though, I'll go back and I'll watch one of his earlier films, like Alps, which I have not seen. Maybe that would work for me. It's funny. I remember really liking The Killing of a Sacred Deer, and I rated it 4 stars on Letterboxd. And yet, every single one of his films that I've seen after that, and The Lobster, I was just kind of mixed on. Dogtooth, I remember just thinking, this is a whole lot, but for what? I don't know. I don't like his movies. I like weird movies. I've said it. You know what I like. I thought this was so weak and so bland in what it was trying to do. And I don't want to say any more. I don't find any reason to harp on this. I guess it's a Best Picture nominee that works for some people, but not for me. Yeah, the tone in this, the nastiness, no. So Bugonia from 2025, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. I gave this one 1.5 stars. I'm a hater. Sorry, but I don't want to spoil it for people who might enjoy it too, so I'm sorry. But let's talk about something I did like. It's Heaven Knows What from 2014, directed by Benny Safdie and Josh Safdie. There is no tagline for this film. A young heroin addict roams the streets of New York to panhandle and get her next fix, while her unstable boyfriend drifts in and out of her life at random. Ariel Holmes, who the script for this is based upon, some of her writings, plays Harley. She is this poor young gal who's in New York City and really taken advantage of by different men. Specifically, she's taken advantage of by her very volatile boyfriend, Ilya, who's played by Caleb Landry Jones. He's typecast here. You just look at the guy and you're like, he's playing some nasty people in movies for sure. But this is very much a stripped down, almost documentary kind of style look at people in New York City who are very poor, just living life through every day, like doing what they can to make a buck because, they may be addicted to drugs or they just need some money to pay for their cell phone. It's really, 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 really man, difficult to watch at times because there's just so much harshness in the world these people are going through. But it's also not a documentary. These are some actors here, and some people that are probably brought up on the street, like just who are asked to be in this film, but they're credited here. Buddy Duress is also in this film. He has since passed away, but he's been in some other Safdie pictures. I like this film. I really specifically really like Ariel Holmes as Harley. I think she gives a terrific performance, but there's a familiar kind of slice of life on the streets kind of thing that we have seen in other movies before. It has that little Safdie touch of having some like good music, and yeah, it's closer to something like Good Time, really stressing more so though about like what kind of, oh boy, how do I say it? Good Time is more of a thriller-ish kind of thing. This is really just people trying to exist and survive, and I think it's good. I gave this one 3 stars. It's New York City, but life on the street in New York City in ways that you don't really see every day in the movies. And like I said, Ariel Holmes, like a good performance. I'd like to see her in more films. She hasn't really done much. Where you been, Ariel Holmes? Let's get you back in the movies. Now up next, another New York picture, but one I absolutely hated, and I'm going to go really quick on this one. It's called Naked in New York from 1993, directed by Daniel Algrant. The tagline is, love, work, life. Even when you have all the pieces, some assembly is required. Naked in New York begins in the car of a grown-up Jake. He is talking to us about his girlfriend Joanne, and to whom you can turn to for help while facing life. From there, it flashes back to his memories of his parents, college, house across from squirrel-infested peanut factory, best friend, writing career, and Joanne. Wow, this is this is the second movie about a dumb guy named Jake who is in a relationship. The other being she's having a baby. Eric Stoltz plays Jake. Joanne is played by Mary Louise Parker. And they have a friend who he also knows from college, Chris, who's played by Ralph Macchio. Jill Clayburgh is also in this film, as is Tony Curtis, Timothy Dalton, Lynn Thigpen, Kathleen Turner, Whoopi Goldberg, Paul Guilfoyle, Callista Flockhart, Lisa Gay Hamilton, Colleen Camp, Griffin Dunn, Chris Noth. Like, there's a lot of people you will recognize in this film. But is it worth watching? Absolutely fucking not. This movie is so bad. It is so inane. It is terrible acting from Eric Stoltz. He is playing the most soulless loser in a film. Like, I thought that Kevin Bacon and she's having a baby was a problem. That's at least a satire. This is trying to be like more relatable, and the scripting for this is just so dull. It's one thing to watch a movie and be like, okay, maybe I'm not like totally enamored with the characters. It's another thing if literally every scene in the movie is like worse than the last. There's nothing convincing about this movie. Every character feels so bland, so uninteresting. I don't know what this movie was doing most of the time. It was just like him talking like, this is my life and I like her and this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to get my play done and blah, blah, blah. I'm in New York and blah, blah, blah. These people tell me this and that, and I hated this so much. Hated it. Hated this movie. Hated it. I have seen a lot of bad movies in my time. A lot of bad movies with people who are just not very likable. I'll take any of those unlikable people over this movie. Eric Stoltz is just, it's I don't even know if it's his fault. It's just a script. It's bad. It's so bad. Don't watch Naked in New York from 1993, directed by Daniel Algrant. It's so incredibly bad. It took me like 3 watches to finish the movie. I'm like, well, I have to finish it. I have to see if it gets better. Like, what's the execution here? What are we doing? And I just, no, it's so incredibly bad. It's not even a badly made movie. It's just so bad in the writing. No, awful. 1 star for Naked in New York. Ugh. It is not very often. I mean, it's one thing for me to not like Bugonia because I don't think it's successful and I think the scripting is weak. It's another to watch a movie that you have no expectations for and you wonder how it ever got released anywhere. It did get a release. I looked it up. But this movie does not exist, and it absolutely should not exist. Oh my God, why? Why? All right, something better. Zootopia 2 from 2025, directed by Jared Bush and Byron Howard. The tagline is Zootopia will be changed forever. After cracking the biggest case in Zootopia's history, rookie cops Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde find themselves on the twisting tale of a great mystery when Gary the Snake arrives and turns the animal metropolis upside down. To crack the case, Judy and Nick must go undercover to make unexpected new parts of town, where their growing partnership is tested like never before. I never really bought what this movie was doing about the dynamics between Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde. I was frankly too distracted by the fact that David Strathairn is essentially voicing a character that is Benjamin Netanyahu. That's all I have to say. This is such a weird movie. I liked it, but it's weird. It's weird because it's really talking about the kinds of things that happen in America and in certain parts of the world where people are basically removed from their homes and told you have no part in this world, so we might as well just destroy everything you know. I was weirded out by this. Visually, it's a feast. Like for kids, absolutely take your kids. I think a lot of the characters are pretty well drawn as far as like who they are and what they do. I just don't understand the Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde thing as much as like Jason Bateman and Jennifer Goodwin are fine at voicing them. I just don't get why we have to do this. But, you know, the first Zootopia, I kind of came out of that with the same reaction of okay, this is a lot. Why do things have to kind of be that kid movie way where it's like it's got to be this conflict and this is what we got to do, and yeah, fine, whatever, that's just the way kids movies are these days, especially from Disney. This movie's ridiculous. I didn't hate it a cab, but I gave this one 3 stars. I was not on any drugs, but it kind of made me feel like I was on drugs while watching this. It's just so much movie, so much chaos, but if you're an adult and you have a fully formed brain, it will feel that way. And if you're a child, it's just going to feel like a good time. I will tell you, I am going to Disney World soon. So I will go to the new Zootopia show that is there that replaced its Stuff to Be a Bug, because I hear it's terrible and I can't wait to see it. But Zootopia 2, it's fine. I don't know. I'm not the audience for this movie. But I saw it and I didn't hate it. So 3 stars for Zootopia 2 from 2025, directed by Jared Bush and Byron Howard. Up next. Hey, something straightforward and definitely, in some ways for me, it's No Other Choice from 2025, directed by Park Chan-wook. No tagline for this film. After being laid off and humiliated by a ruthless job market, a veteran paper mill manager descends into violence in a desperate bid to reclaim his dignity. I did not look up anything about this movie before I saw. I just knew, well, if it comes to my theater, I'll go see it. I really like doing that, and it's fun because it does make it exciting for me when things get a little haywire. Lee Byung-hun plays the lead character, Yu Man-soo, who he needs a job after getting laid off from his job, but it's got to be in the paper industry because that's what he does. So he has no other choice other than to hatch a plan to destroy the competition when it comes to getting a new job. I will say nothing more. This movie is pretty zany in that Park Chan-wook way. It is also definitely having commentary about the way the world works and the work competition. If you hate LinkedIn, this movie is for you. I think the cinematography in this movie specifically is beautiful. Some of the best looking stuff I've seen in a movie in a while. Use of music is terrific. Nearly every character on screen is like really well drawn and done. His wife, played by Son Ye-jin, Lee Marie, she is great as well. I don't want to spoil this movie though, and I'll just say you need to see No Other Choice. I feel like it's a little more successful than Decision to Leave, which I was kind of mixed on, which is weird because it's like not a bad film at all. I just kind of left the film being like, I liked it, but I didn't love it. But Decision to Leave, it's not a bad film. It's just, I'm just a little mixed on it. Stoker, I remember watching that movie and just being kind of like, it's fine, it's good. But the ones you really want to hear me talk about are probably The Handmaiden and Old Boy. Old Boy, I have not seen since it came out. I should probably watch that again soon. That's a bizarro film. But The Handmaiden is probably my favorite Park Chan-wook film. That one is an epic. It's beautiful. It's terrifically romantic and bizarro, and I feel like No Other Choice definitely hits the same kind of levels of chaos and ridiculousness and the way that the world works and how you might be fighting against it. But here's me just like saying a bunch of things because I don't want to spoil the film and I'm trying to talk around it. But I think you should watch No Other Choice. There is no other choice you have to make, I guess. If you come out of this episode thinking one thing, it's me telling you should probably watch No Other Choice, which I gave 3.5 stars, not 4 stars. Though I blame part of that on the fact that I got to the theater in an adequate amount of time to see this movie right when it started. But they started it early because that has been happening. I've read about people having that issue with AMC theaters. I go to a Regal. They started this one early. Usually it's about 22 minutes, 25 minutes in some instances, and I swear they started this movie within 10 minutes, so I missed a brief part of the beginning of the film. I am looking forward to seeing this one again, be it at home or in the theater. If it's still in theaters this coming weekend, I will make the journey to see it again, because again, I think visually this movie is terrific, like some really beautiful stuff. And I said something about the music. Yeah, the use of music in this movie is great. Really great. Really impressive. Everybody should aspire to make movies as good as what Park Chan-wook is doing here. So, yes. Now, another movie I went to the theater to see. It's Dead Man's Wire from 2025, directed by Gus Van Sant. The tagline is, "His revolution was televised." In 1977, former real estate developer Tony Kuritzis puts a dead man's switch on himself and the mortgage banker who did him wrong, demanding $5 million and a personal apology. Bill Skarsgård plays Tony Kuritzis. In this movie is all Bill Skarsgård. The movie is told in a couple of different ways, one from news reports, but then the actual experience that Dockery Montgomery's character Richard is having as he is captive by Tony. He is held at gunpoint nearly the entire film. And you're wondering to yourself, well, how could that be a movie? But there's so many moving parts in this story. There's the cops that know Tony. There's the radio DJ played by Coleman Domingo, who Tony idolizes and wants to get to know. And then there's the people on the street and the experiences they have, and the TV crew that are following this journey. This is a really well-composed film. The different pieces moving about, not just Tony's experience, but the community as they are affected by it. And I believe it was Indianapolis. And this is a real event. This is something that really happened. Now, I've seen some comments here and there about how there's a documentary that's done about this. It's probably a little better, which I'm hoping to watch soon. But for what this is, an adaptation of real events, taking this situation and having this one character that we have to basically follow. Yeah, it's Bill Skarsgård. I mean, he's a good actor. He's been in some films. But you definitely feel the tension in every moment as he is on screen. The second we meet him, we just know. We know something's up. He's got a plan. And he's a dude who's, having some issues here. He's feeling wronged, and he wants to right that wrong the only way he knows how. And we know it's a bad way to go about it. But I like this film. I recommend this film. It might not feel very impressive as a motion picture, but I feel like these kinds of movies that are about an event, the retelling of the event, and then having sort of a performance focus for like one lead character, it's sad to say we don't get movies like this anymore, but it is what it is right now, the way the industry is working. But when movies like this come to my local theater, I have to go. I will go. Like I mentioned the Dutchman, like I had to go. I was like, it doesn't matter if I like the movie or not to some degree. It's a smaller film and I have to go. I have the means to go. I will go. Dead Man's Wire. Am I a huge Gus Van Sant fan? No. Am I a huge Bill Skarsgård fan? No. But I've heard about this movie. I'm going to go to see it in a theater. And at home, I don't think this kind of movie would play that well. There's something really theatrical about the way that it kind of bounces between the situation with Tony and Richard, and then the filming of like the scenes of TV and how that's playing out on television, how the newsroom is reacting to things, and like what we should go live for this moment, or how is this going to play out in the news. And then Coleman Domingo's radio DJ Fred Temple, and how Fred Temple is going to handle what's going on here and how he's connected to it. I like this. This is an adult drama, and I'm going to go to every damn adult drama I can at the theater, as long as it's not produced by Angel Studios, I guess. These movies aren't getting shown everywhere anymore, and it really depresses me. And this movie specifically, another factor. I don't know how it is for you folks wherever you are in your theaters, but titles like this one and The Plague, like, got one showtime every single day for that 1 week they were out at my theater. That really grinds my gears, you guys. Like, I wanted to see this movie, but folks like me only had, like, what did I have? I have 7 chances to see this movie, and I had to make that effort to go see it. That sucks. That sucks real bad. So theaters are kicking movies like this out as soon as they can. Like, they're showing them the door, but they're like, get out of here. You know, we don't want you around because we got to show Zootopia on like 3 screens. Boo. Yes, Zootopia is the enemy. But it's, you know, it's going to be a tough year for movies, and taking those dramas and getting them in and seeing them where we can. And I'm going to do my best to make sure I get to the theater for every single movie that's showing. That is something that is up my alley, or maybe slightly like, you know, I hate to say it, but I will say it. Let's say Yorgos Lanthimos releases another movie in the theater. I'll go see it. I mean, yeah, okay, fine. No, I'm not making that much of a concession, but I think it's important to make sure we go see movies like this in the theater. So Dead Man's Wire from 2025, directed by Gus Van Sant. I gave this one 3 stars. Do want to mention I like the cinematography for this one too. It didn't feel like it was overly trying to make everything look like it was from the 1970s. No, that was the job of the production design. It wasn't like trying to ape 70s style in its filmmaking, but the TV scenes that we get and how those are shot, I think they look terrific. Really, this movie does have a reference point, of course, though, because it's a real life event, but I think this is a very successfully made film too. Okay, we're almost there, home stretch. The second to last film we're going to talk about on this episode is Diane Warren, Relentless. It's a documentary from 2024, directed by Bess Kargman, though I gotta assume it was released in 2025 because it's nominated for Academy Award for Best Song from a Documentary, though a film, achieving a musical written for motion pictures, original song, Diane Warren, music and lyrics by, for the track Dear Me, which is from her documentary about herself. Oh, Diane. The tagline is Hitmaker, Legend, Pain in the Ass, an intimate look at the life, career, and process of one of the most accomplished songwriters of all time, Diane Warren. Now, Diane Warren, you might know the name. She's written songs such as Don't Wanna Miss a Thing, and many, many others, and Rhythm of the Night, like DeBarge. I didn't know she wrote that one. This movie is one of those kind of fluff documentaries where you get a lot of people who are famous celebrities talking about someone, you know, telling you how great they are and blah, blah, blah. I think the proof is in the pudding, though. Diane Warren, we still talk about her today. She's still getting nominated for Oscars today because she is a legend. She is very prolific, very talented writer, very successful, lots of, you know, money. And the thing is, there's plenty of songs she's written that we've never heard because they never got off the ground. But this documentary wants to take you back to the 1960s and 70s where Diane grew up in California, just a kid, not so great in school. She didn't have a great relationship with her mother. Her dad supported her and wanted her to be a musician, and he helped her get some, you know, music lessons and a guitar to figure out how to be a performer because that was her passion. And as much as she lived a very rough and troubling youth in the 70s and experienced a lot of pain and suffering and not being treated well, she was abused as a child, and she's been through a lot. You know, truly, she is relentless. I'm not saying this documentary like made me feel like, oh my gosh, Diane Warren, you are amazing, blah, blah, blah. It really gets down to, you know, what the real story is of how she came up as just this kid, didn't have connections to the industry, and found her way into this world of pop music, and how she has, you know, come this far. I mean, she has been in the industry now for what? Like 40 years? Wow. I like this. This was definitely a warts and all portrait of Diane Warren and how she is definitely a character. People like Cher give these testimonials in the documentary where they talk about how wacky she is, and she's a personality for sure. But I think, you know, every creative person in their own way has to be a little off, a little different. Because if they were like everybody else, would that make them special? I don't know. I say give Diane Warren the Oscar. Give her the Oscar for this song. Let's do it. It's not a pity thing. I just think, you know, she's worked so hard, and she has herself said, I want to win an Oscar. She's been a fan of the Oscars since she was a kid. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I want to win an Oscar. Like, work towards it, you know? Not everybody is going to get one. You could work all day and night and never get one. Become the greatest performer, get all the accolades, and still never get it. But there's still nothing wrong in wanting one, and Diane Warren for sure wants one. She, in the documentary, has a party at like 5 in the morning when the Oscars get announced on the West Coast, because she lives in LA, of course, and she has like a party to see the nominees. And sure enough, in the documentary, they show her party, and she gets nominated, and she's so excited. You know, maybe this is the year, maybe it's next year, maybe it's the future, but she does have an honorary Oscar, and she's gotten the recognition from that. And sure enough, the music sells. The music, you know, we're left with the music at the end of the day, and her talent, and I find that very admirable. She has never given up for what she wants, especially since she has come from basically nothing. She built herself in this world, and this documentary made me really like Diane Warren. So I give this 3 stars. Yes, it's a bit of one of those fluff kind of things. It's like 92 minutes long. It's the most easy to watch documentary out there, but you get to learn some things about her that you never knew before. And she is who she is. And I have to say one thing. Oh my gosh. She has this cat in the documentary, which has now sadly passed away. And this cat was her cat for, I think she said like 15 years or so. And you look at Diane Warren and you look at the cat and the things you know about her, and it just all makes sense. Little things like that, you know, it's so true. You couldn't even think it up yourself. But yeah, Diane Warren, Relentless from 2024, though I guess 2025, directed by Bess Kargman. I gave this one 3 stars. And now we're here, the final film for the episode. It's been a long one. My voice is a little tired, but we're talking about Together from 2025, directed by Michael Shanks. The tagline is Join Us. Years into their relationship, Tim and Millie find themselves at a crossroads as they move to the country, abandoning all that is familiar in their lives except each other. With tensions already flaring, a nightmarish encounter with a mysterious unnatural force threatens to corrupt their lives, their love, and their flesh. This stars Dave Franco as Tim, and Millie is played by Alison Brie, his real life wife. They seem like 2 just average kind of people. She has a good job. She's going to move to do that job. And he's a guy who's, I think he's like in a band. He's like kind of figuring things out with music and trying to be, you know, supportive of Millie, but he's kind of an ass. Another movie where the guy is kind of an ass in a relationship. And Millie and him are just kind of, it's not great. Like, they're not married, but they're in a relationship. And it's kind of like, are we going to take the next step? We're living together, but things aren't so great. And what happens to them? Well, they fall down a hole. And while in the hole, they are kind of forced to be together. And something happens to them when they are together. And I'm not going to spoil it. But revelations start to happen where the idea of a relationship, you know, being very difficult for women and men being codependent on women start to come to life and into fruition within these 2 people. I don't want to spoil anything to do with this. I really don't, because I did kind of like the developments that sort of happened, where we start to understand why these things are happening to them, why they are being connected, and why there's like this kind of tethering thing happening here. I don't know about the performances. I kind of feel like they were just okay. And it's weird because obviously these are 2 actors who get along in real life, but together, I don't know. maybe that's the point. Maybe they're not supposed to have chemistry. Maybe they're supposed to feel like they don't belong together. Um, as much as I was kind of mixed on this movie, it's well shot. It's got good settings, definitely good production design in this movie for something that is really just this small area. There's not a lot of it's not a very expansive world for these people. Um there was a couple moments that made me laugh out loud, and I really appreciate when a movie that I'm not quite enjoying and feel like it isn't really going for broke enough does have moments that feel very ridiculous, like the movie knows it needs to be crazy. However, I don't know. I still go back to those performances and the way that they're acting, and I kind of wish the tone was a little bit more balanced here in what it's doing. And I have to say, the very actual ending of this film, I don't know. I'm kind of questioning what it's like really trying to do and why it's trying to do it, or if it's just for shock factor. And I don't mind if it's just for shock factor, but then the result is, I don't know. It's like it's weird. It's like eating the dessert that I want to get and I'm in the mood for it. And it is the thing it's supposed to be, but it's also a little lacking. Like it maybe doesn't have enough crunch, it doesn't have enough texture, or maybe it's not as sweet as it needs to be. It all kind of is a mixed bag in some ways, even when the pieces kind of fit together. I don't know. And I will say the immediate beginning of this movie was just not convincing at all. I was like not on board. I was like, no, this is very silly. This is very dumb. This isn't good. And it kind of builds and builds and builds, but it's like building, and I feel like it's a lateral building. I don't know. I don't outright hate it, but I don't know if this is for me. So I have to do the 2.5 rating on this one. Again, it's got some moments to it that I feel like are successful, and it's really going for like a relationship horror kind of thing. But this is also the third movie I've mentioned where the man in the relationship is absolutely terrible. Though thankfully this is not as bad as Naked in New York, but I think I have to give Together 2.5 stars. There's enough sort of working here to some degree, but I'm also kind of left a little like, oh well, it's not quite it. I'm also reminded this movie like does some shots in it that are just so typical of movies these days, for horror movies, that I've kind of seen in a couple of films, and I'm just like, hey, you didn't have to do that. Feels a little bit unimaginative for a movie that is going for imaginative kind of extreme things. But Together from 2025, directed by Michael Shanks. I don't know. I feel like I would watch the next movie Michael Shanks makes, despite me feeling like this isn't quite it. It's not quite successful. And this, I believe, is the first feature film from Michael Shanks. Yeah, it looks like he's just done some shorts, some short films. But he has another movie on his slate on Letterboxd called Hotel, 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 Hotel. A man wakes up trapped in a mysterious hotel room, all alone in the mind-bending prison. His only chance for escape is through teamwork with himself. Oh, okay, all right. Well, I don't know about that, but Together. I had to give this one 2.5 stars. Like I said, just kind of not quite working for me, but again, I watch it on a different day and I might like enjoy the shit out of it. I might see on like TV and be like, hell yeah. And I have some, some feelings that are not so favorable, but then again, it's like not totally terrible. It could be worse. I didn't rate it 2 stars, so let's just say that. And I don't have anything against Alison Brie or Dave Franco. I don't know if I believe them as a couple in this movie, at least. They're actors though, so that's the movie. Wow, this was a really long episode. This is why I try to review movies on a weekly basis, because doing 13 movies in an episode can really wear on you and your brain and what you're trying to say the way I do it, unfortunately. Which is why I try to, yeah, I said it already. Anyway. Yeah, so wait, what's the question? What's the best movie I've seen the year so far? Since I just did the episode talking about my 10 favorite films from 2025 that I watched in the entire year. Yeah, it's No Other Choice. No Other Choice is in the running. And then The Mastermind, that's also in the running. And The Plague, not too far behind, but I did only go 3 stars. And then Heaven Knows What. So those and Dead Man's Wire and Diane Warren. Hey, that's a party. That's not so bad. Yeah. Yeah, let's stop. Let's stop talking. I think we're done. I'm Mallory. This is my podcast. Go to cinema5000.com. I've got a blog on there where I do update sometimes, some writings, and I even put the YouTube links. So if you want to watch the podcast, but really just listen to it because I'm not doing video, go to YouTube and look up Cinema 5000 podcasts, and then on Bluesky it's Cinema 5000. And if you want to send an email, send it to cinema5kpod@gmail.com. Happy 2026. I'm going to have another episode in a week of new stuff to me. And there will be another episode in a couple of days where I talk about the Oscar nominations because I haven't recorded that one yet. So lucky you. I'll have 3 episodes in the next week. Or in a weekly cycle. Yeah, in a week cycle. Maybe not. Maybe. It is late and it is time for me to stop recording, but thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you again soon. Okay.